Hello, beautiful people. Happy Friday and happy weekend. Welcome to your astrological forecast for next week, which will be predominantly focused on the upcoming full moon in Scorpio, which will take place on Tuesday the 23rd. This is the first lunation since the eclipses. But before I dive in, I would like to name what else is going on prior and post this lunation, because of course all these aspects will be playing a role during the full moon in Scorpio. So today, Friday the 19th, is actually the busiest day of this week, and as I mentioned in my previous astrological forecast, this is the busiest week of April actually. So today we are entering into Taurus season because the sun moved into the sign of, has moved already into the sign of Taurus, but prior to that, Venus, as the ruler of Taurus, made a conjunction to Mercury retrograde in Aries, and after sun moved into the sign of Taurus, Mars, as the ruler of the North Node, is making his final sextile to Jupiter and Uranus. This is a preparation for a conjunction that will take place between Sun and Jupiter and Sun and Uranus this summer and close the cycle that began between all of them in 2022. So Moon is still in the sign of Virgo until tomorrow, Saturday the 20th. So Moon will move into the sign of Libra right after the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. Literally, it will be like half an hour later. I already covered the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. If you would like to hear more about it, you can check out my astrological forecast for last week, the last one that I released. But as I mentioned, all these aspects are playing a role during this full moon in Scorpio. So the rest of the weekend, Moon will be in a sign of Libra. Libra is a cardinal sign. It's all about new direction. And of course, Libra is striving for balance because it's about equality, fairness, and where it's showing us where things are out of balance and creates a desire for creating balance. And of course, Moon is our inner world. So anyway, so we see how this is playing out. And then on Sunday the 21st, Venus is making a conjunction to Chiron, which is resetting the cycle that began between the two of them a year ago, and now a new cycle is beginning in Aries, which is all about new direction again. And Sun is making its first square to Pluto since the conjunction on January 20th, which took place on 29 degrees 59 minutes of Capricorn, and that was the last conjunction between Sun and Pluto in Capricorn in our lifetime. Okay, Monday the 22nd, Moon is still in the sign of Libra. Tuesday the 23rd, Moon will move into the sign of Scorpio in preparation for the full moon in Scorpio, which will be taking place on 4 degrees and 18 minutes of Scorpio. Then on Wednesday, Moon is still in Scorpio, Ceres is making a square to Chiron. And then on Thursday the 25th, Mercury will station direct. Hallelujah. So Mercury has been retrograde since April 1st, and Mercury has been in the sign of Aries since March 9th, which was right before the new moon in Pisces, and Mercury will remain in the sign of Aries until May 15th, which is right after the new moon in Taurus. So Mercury is in Aries for quite a long time. As I mentioned, it's been retrograde since April 1st, and it will station direct on 15 degrees and 59 minutes of Aries on Thursday the 25th. So after that, Mercury is direct again. And for a week, all the planets are still direct because we will have Pluto station in retrograde on May 2nd. On Thursday the 25th, right after Mercury stations direct, later on that day, Moon will move into the sign of Sagittarius. For some of us, it will be already on April the 26th, Moon in the sign of Sagittarius. So for my birthday, Moon will be in the sign of Sagittarius. I'm not complaining. It will conjunct my MC and also my Uranus. Anyway, let's move on. There is nothing really else going on between Friday and Saturday, apart from Moon being in the sign of Sagittarius and doing what she does, aspects to everything. But then on Sunday the 28th, Moon will move into the sign of Capricorn, which is a cardinal sign. Once again, we have this shift which is showing us that we are ending and starting new weeks with the moon in a cardinal sign, new direction. Now we're really heading in a new direction. And then on the same day, on Sunday the 28th, but for majority of people this will be already Monday the 29th, because for me here in Mexico it will be at 10:30 p.m. So even for people on eastern coast of the US, it will be already Monday the 29th. Mars will make a conjunction to Neptune, and this will close a cycle that began between the two of them on May 18th, 2022, which was right after the total lunar eclipse in Scorpio, which happened on 25 degrees 18 minutes. So this is quite important aspect to consider into the interpretation of this Scorpio full moon, and I dive into why. But then just the last two things I want to mention is that at the beginning of the following week, on Monday the 30th, Monday the 29th, Venus will move into a sign of Taurus, where she will remain until May 23rd. And she will move into the sign of Gemini right after, literally a few hours after the full moon in Sagittarius, which will take place on 23rd of May. And then on Tuesday the 30th, Mars will move into the sign of Aries, which is the sign of his rulership. So is Venus and Taurus. And so that's very interesting that we're going to be ending April. Right before we enter into May, we will be until April with both the ruler of the South and the North Node in the signs of the rulership. So this, I just wanted to add this to this video, but of course I will be talking more about this in my next astrological forecast. Okay, so let's just start with the Mars-Neptune conjunction, because Mars, as we know, is the ruler of the North Node, and Neptune is dissolving and closing all the past cycles, especially the cycle of the Piscean age, which just ended recently. So let me just get these charts ready. So the reason why I want to mention the Neptune-Mars conjunction is because, as I mentioned, it happened literally 2 days after the total lunar eclipse in Scorpio. So this was in 2022. During that time, we had the nodes in the sign of Scorpio and Taurus. And this eclipse, the total lunar eclipse, actually happened in a new phase conjunction with the South Node. So South Node, as we know, has been the resolution node to Pluto square in the nose, well, was last year. So this eclipse happened on the South Node in Scorpio, and it was in a new phase conjunction to South Node. Now, South Node was actually being squared by Saturn. Well, both nodes were being squared by Saturn. This is May 2022. Saturn was the one squaring the nodes, and the resolution was the South Node in Scorpio, and this eclipse was being squared by Saturn, and the node was in a new phase conjunction with the eclipse. And this is literally 2 days before Mars made its last conjunction to Neptune, which is the one that's going to be the cycle that's going to be ending next week after the Scorpio full moon. So last time Neptune and Mars conjuncting right after, 2 days after the Scorpio full moon, but it was an eclipse, and it was squared by Saturn. Saturn was the ruler of Pluto throughout the, 14 years now, right? More. 2008 until now, 16 years, Saturn was the ruler of Pluto. And as I mentioned a few times already, when Pluto is done with the sign, when it moves out of the sign where it's been for a long time, because Pluto is always in a sign for over a decade, the sign is dismantled. That's it. It's dead. It took Pluto took all the essence out of it. It said, like, this is now outdated. We need to rebirth. We need to create something new out of this, right? So in May 2022, at the full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio, Saturn, as the ruler of Pluto, of course at the time it was the ruler of Pluto because Pluto was in the sign of Capricorn. Let me see, where is Capricorn? Yeah, Pluto was actually making a sextile to the Scorpio eclipse at the time, and it was trining the Sun, and it was also trining the North Node in Taurus. And The Taurus North Node was, of course, trying to help us to understand that the power actually lies within, that we need to reconnect with ourselves, with our sense of self-worth and value, and the tools that are hiding within us that are helping us to step into our power, Scorpio, to create whatever we want. So there was this big T square at the precipice of which was Saturn. And like I said, this is right before Mars made a conjunction to Neptune. Therefore, Mars was in a closing phase conjunction to Neptune in Pisces. This was an indicator that these cycles are ending. Saturn was in Aquarius, that's where Pluto is now. Saturn was showing us what is outdated. This was 2022. What was happening in 2022 was already showing us that the time was up. The time was up. Jupiter was in a new phase conjunction to Neptune. Jupiter is the storyteller. We know we are having Jupiter-Uranus conjunction literally on Saturday, Sunday, depending where you are in the world, right before this full moon in Scorpio. And it's saying to us that the story of the past that we were being told about ourselves as humanity, as human race, as human consciousness, the story is ending because it now lost meaning. It makes us feel disempowered, and it's preventing us from stepping into this new direction that we are evolutionary having to step into. There is no, like, it's not like we have a choice. We have a choice how we gonna do it, but the fact that evolution is happening and we have to roll with it, that is non-negotiable. So there are a lot of indicators. Also, Venus was in a new phase conjunction to Chiron in Aries. So there was a new cycle that was beginning the process of healing. Of course, Neptune is all about healing. And like I said, the sun was actually in a new phase. Yes, sun was also in a new phase conjunction to North Node, and the moon, the actual eclipse, was in a new phase conjunction to South Node. So this is where things started to move from 2022. So again, I don't want to spend, of course, the entire video talking about something that happened 2 years ago, but I just wanted to show again how the cycles are connected. Mars was conjuncting Neptune right after the total lunar eclipse in Scorpio that was being squared by Saturn in Aquarius. Saturn was the ruler of Pluto. Pluto was already on 28 degrees, and it was retrograde at the time. Pluto was already on 28 degrees, so it was making us to go within, go inwards, and reevaluate what it is, what this structure of reality we are experiencing, what out of there actually still holds a meaning, what out of there is outdated, what out of there is a coping mechanism, what is being created as a coping mechanism to the reality that we experienced long time ago. Jupiter was in Aries on 1 degree in a new phase conjunction with Neptune. Jupiter was starting a new cycle, a new story, and now we know we have in Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in Taurus, and Jupiter is closing the story that started between Uranus and Jupiter in 2010, 2011, like I discussed last time. Okay, let's move on from here. So Scorpio full moon on April 23rd, 2024. Full moon, as I keep saying, this is the midpoint. It's a illumination of a seed that got seeded during the new moon in Scorpio. So new moon in Scorpio happened on November 13th, 2023, which was right after the eclipses, because we had the eclipse in Libra on October 14th, 2023, which was a solar eclipse. And then at the end of October, I believe it was October 28th, we had the last lunar eclipse in Taurus. And this Scorpio new moon in November 2023 was again the first lunation after the eclipses. Now again, Scorpio full moon is the first lunation after the eclipses. And during this time, the eclipse, it was just a new moon, okay? Don't freak out. It was not an eclipse. It was a new moon. This new moon was actually in an exact opposition with Uranus. So there was something needs to be balanced. So there was a seed being seeded because something has to be balanced now. What has to be balanced? This spell. This spell that was being put on humanity, this clump that was being put on humanity that reduced humans to this complete disconnection between the human soul and the spirit, right? The human and the spirit, it got like, the connection got like literally reduced to nothingness, to minimum. And this is what needs to get balanced, because Pluto now is ruled by Uranus. Uranus is in Taurus. It's saying it's time to break free from the restraints of the past stories that made us disempowered, because we disconnected from ourselves, because we forgot to trust ourselves and look for the answer within. So at the time of the new moon in Scorpio, it happened in a conjunction with Mars, and Mars was in a new phase to Sun. Of course, the exact conjunction between Sun and Mars happened 2 days later because, Sun, as I said, it's complicated with Sun, but Mars was in a new phase to Sun. Mars was in a new phase to Scorpio New Moon. However, it had a conjunction with Sun 2 days later. So this Scorpio new moon, see this new consciousness, this new consciousness with regards to Mars as the traditional ruler of Scorpio, and the new moon in Scorpio, and Mars conjuncting the new moon in Scorpio in a new phase, that it's time to step into our power. It's time to face our fears and challenge them and take our power back, because in opposition with Uranus, it's saying there is too much imbalance. There is too much imbalance, which was caused by these traumas that got passed on from generation to generation that created disconnection, and that's what makes us feel disempowered and makes us externalize our power. At the time, Saturn once again was squaring, it was white orb, but it was still squaring the new moon in Scorpio. It was also squaring Mars, and it was also squaring Mercury. Mercury at the time was already in Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter. Mercury was always helping us to start learning the truth. We know Mercury was retrograde in Sagittarius later on in December. It started retrograde in Capricorn, but then it gone back into Sagittarius. So Mercury was re-evaluating this story, so we can see how everything is connected. We have a new moon in Scorpio. Already during the last Mars as the current rule of the North Node, at the time it was the traditional rule of the South Node. Mars as the current rule of the North Node, in two years ago, in 2022, had a conjunction with Neptune 2 days after the total lunar eclipse in Scorpio that was squared by Saturn in Aquarius as the ruler of Pluto, that was saying it's time to break free because this pattern is now outdated. Like I said, Jupiter was in Aries on 1 degree in a new phase conjunction with Neptune. Mars was in a closing phase conjunction to Neptune. It said we are birthing new story. We already seeded all of that during the first conjunction between Uranus and Jupiter in June 2010, when it happened on 0 degrees and 18 minutes of Aries. All of this already started long time ago. And then, like I said, we can go back to eclipses. The last time the eclipses were happening on a North Node in Aries in 2004 and 5 and 6, right? So we can see everything is connected. So anyway, this new moon in Scorpio, which was the seeding of this full moon, like I said, was being squared by Saturn, white orb, but it was exactly opposed by Uranus. At the time, Pluto was actually making a sextile, wide orb, but Pluto was making a sextile to this stellium in Scorpio, especially to Mars. But it's still, because they are all conjunct, it counts. And Pluto was actually trining Uranus. Pluto was sextile in Neptune. This was the time when we had the Pluto. It's not exact because, of course, these planets, they don't move very fast, but it was within the orb. So during the time, Pluto was sextile in the moon, and it was trining Uranus that was opposing the moon. It was opposing the moon. So Uranus said, okay, we need to balance things over here. There's too much disempowerment, too much fear, too much trauma going on in the world. This was in November 2023. What happened just before October 2023? We all remember what happened. A lot of fear was being stirred up again, the cycles coming around again, some new story again, which is real. Of course it's real, I'm not saying it's not, but another story that takes over the world, that creates more fear, more sense of disempowerment, more sense of hopelessness. That was in October. Of course, this was right after November, right after the eclipses. Eclipses are karmic. New solar eclipse, first one in Libra on October 14th, 2023. It started to show us that things are out of balance. We just had the illumination now in March 25th. It's showing us how things are out of whack in the world. Everything is out of balance. That's why experiencing so many crises, because things are out of balance. How are we going to, realize they're out of balance? By experiencing crises, and that then it will push us into a direction of finding the way back to the center, right? So Pluto, still in Capricorn at the time, again 28 degrees. Pluto is doing there are a lot of things happening while Pluto is on 28 degrees. What is 28? 10. The endings and new beginnings. 10 is the ultimate end and a new beginning. It contains the number 10, the number 1, and the number 0. 1 is the new beginning, the manifestation of the new. The 0 is the unlimited potential of anything it can be, is the void, right? The 0 point from which everything is created. So Pluto was sextile in Neptune. This is with regards to Pluto and Neptune, this was the Taurus phase, the waxing crescent, the Taurus flavor, right? Waxing crescent phase. And Pluto was shining Uranus. So this is very important to pay attention to, because of course these are the evolutionary planets. Uranus taking us beyond, Neptune allowing us to dissolve and let go of that which is not supporting us on our evolutionary path anymore. And Pluto is the evolution, is the soul desire for incarnation. Why are we here? We came here to evolve, to learn, to grow, and to evolve together with everything else, because everything is part of the same thing, right? So anyway, so this was the seeding process. At the time, this was November 2023, Pluto was still squaring the nodes, resolution South Node. This was actually right before Venus had a conjunction with South Node. That happened later on that month, 2 weeks later on November 29th. So Venus was in a closing phase conjunction to South Node. At the time, Venus was already just about, but she was already in Libra, making a sextile to Mercury. Now what we have in Venus conjuncting Mercury. It's just happening literally today, right? I think I mentioned that it's happening today. I'm like, now I'm not in my logical brain, so I'm like, I need to check my notes. But yes, right now Venus is making a conjunction to Mercury retrograde in Aries. At the time, Venus was in Libra in a closing phase conjunction to South Node that she's going to conjunct one more time in September, just before the eclipse in Pisces. And she was making a sextile to Mercury in Sagittarius ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter making a conjunction now to Uranus. And at the time of the new moon in Scorpio that we are having the midpoint of now, Uranus was opposing the new moon in Scorpio. So more and more things become illuminated for us since fall or autumn or spring, if you are in southern hemisphere, of last year, October, November time. A lot of things now became illuminated to show us, okay, well, it really is a go time. It really is a time to do something about this, because this imbalance is now too much to ignore, right? Too much to ignore. Because this Mercury was digging up what is the truth, what are the stories here, why we still keep doing this. So anyway, so this is what was happening at the time where this energy got seeded. Opposing to Uranus, Pluto was supporting it, Venus was closing to South Node. We are closing these cycles of the past, resolution South Node to Pluto squaring the nodes, ruled by Venus in the closing phase, making a sextile to Mercury in Sagittarius. We need to start reevaluating this story and creating a new one with regards to how does it feel, because again, Taurus phase, Venus to Mercury, it was the first sextile from Mercury to Venus. Again, the waxing crescent, right? Waxing crescent, Taurus phase. How does it feel? Is it in alignment with who I am, what I need, what matters to me? And Mars was in Scorpio. We need to start stepping into our power, because Mars is how Pluto acts consciously. And Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio. So it's connected to Pluto. It's saying it's time, because things are too imbalanced. Okay, and that takes us back to current time, which is the April 23rd, 2024, full moon in Scorpio. And before I fully dive in, this cycle will fully end on November 1st, 2024. That's when the cycle will culminate. And during that cycle, you can't make this up, Pluto will be making an exact opposition to Mars. Pluto will be on 29 degrees Capricorn, already direct at that point. Pluto will station direct in October. So Pluto will be already direct, still on a 29 degrees of 29:45, so 11 and 9. These numbers are coming up for me very often, 11 and 9. And Mars will be on 29 degrees of Capricorn. We know Mars is going to have a retrograde in December in the sign of Leo, but will retrograde back into, Capricorn, Cancer. Mars will be in Cancer, Pluto will be in Capricorn. They will be having an exact opposition during the next new moon in Scorpio, which will close the cycle that began in November 2023. November 2023. And there will be other things happening, but of course, well, actually, I'll just mention this one thing. Saturn will be trine in it. Saturn will be trine in it. So now we had Uranus opposing it. Uranus is the next one after Saturn. Chiron is the key between Saturn and Uranus. And we know that Venus just is having a conjunction with Chiron now on Sunday as the rule of the resolution south node. And yes, and there will be actually a beautiful kite created in the sky at the time. So anyway, so this is too much going into the future, but I just wanted to tell you that yes, when the cycle will end, we will have Pluto in exact opposition to Mars, and Mars will be on 29 degrees of Cancer. So Cancer is popping up for us a lot because the next Jupiter-Uranus conjunction will happen in Cancer. The next North Node Chiron conjunction will happen in Cancer and Gemini because of the retrogrades. So who are we? Cancer is our identity. It's about all these labels we are attached to because we think that's who we are. So Pluto being on 29 degrees of Capricorn, opposing Mars on 29 degrees of Cancer. Mars as the ruler of the North Node still, which is saying that no, this is not who you are. You need to let go of these old stories and all these identities and learn from it because it's time. Because we cannot keep recreating the same wheel forever. It's time to move on. It's time to upgrade in a sense and evolve, right? Okay, so there's the November 2024. So now we really look into the current times, okay? So that was the past, that was the future, but everything is happening simultaneously, you know? That's why this is getting more and more multidimensional over here, and I cannot help it, you know? This is what I'm guided to talk about because everything is happening simultaneously. So how this is showing up in our real life is just helping us to understand that these are inevitable cycles that are taking place. How exactly it's going to manifest in our life, that's what we have a free will over, but these are the energies, they're going to manifest one way or another. So current chart, current Scorpio full moon in Scorpio full moon in Scorpio. It's still Mercury retrograde, okay, when I'm recording this. Full moon in Scorpio on April 23rd. For me here in Mexico is at 5:48 p.m. So depending where you are in the world, obviously for people in Europe and Australia and New Zealand and Asia and all the rest of it, it will be already April 24th. But for me here in Mexico, it's still early evening of April 23rd. On 4 degrees, 18 minutes. So this one, it's actually being squared by Pluto. So we had the last one that was being opposed by Uranus, right? Uranus is the current ruler of Pluto. And this one is being squared by Pluto. At the time of the last new moon, Pluto was squaring the nodes, resolution south node. Now Pluto moved on. It's saying, okay, now I'm gonna move the moon, square the moon that is ruled by Pluto. Pluto is the modern ruler of Scorpio, is the planet associated with Scorpio, and the ruler of the Scorpio full moon is squaring the moon. So there is a T-square between Sun and Moon that are in opposition, because of course, full moon, and Pluto. And this is, like I said, right before Pluto stations retrograde, which is like just over a week after that on May 2nd. So Pluto is squaring the moon. That is happening, Sun. Sun is in conjunction with Venus, Chiron, and Mercury, even though Sun is already in the sign of Taurus, but everybody is on a pile over there. Mercury is still in conjunction with North Node. However, the exact conjunction already took place in March 18th. They will not have another exact conjunction, but they are very close together. This is a new phase between Mercury and North Node. We know we need to start looking at the world differently, through different eye, gather information, but process them in a different way that allows for this new vision, for this new perception of reality to be birthed. Because by the time of this full moon in Scorpio, Jupiter is already in a new phase with Uranus. The conjunction is happening 3 days before that. So, like I said, the moon is still happening quite close to Chiron, even though it is not exact conjunction. Of course, Sun is already in Taurus, but Sun is conjuncting Venus and Venus is conjuncting Chiron, because Venus-Chiron conjunction is happening 2 days before this moon. So they are also in a new phase. So this is what changed. So we have all these new phase conjunctions that weren't there during the eclipse. We had the Chiron in an exact conjunction to the eclipse in Aries, the last lunation before this one, but this time Venus, as the ruler of the south node, resolution node, is in a new phase conjunction to Chiron. So she's helping us to resolve this imbalance that is between us and other people and us and external reality through self-discovery, through facing our wounds and making new choices under old circumstances, being aware why these things are happening, what was the meaning of that, because Mars at this time is still in Pisces. Mars will remain in Pisces until the end of the month. So Mars is in a closing phase conjunction with Neptune. As I mentioned at the beginning, Mars will conjunct Neptune at the end of the week on April 28. That's why I mentioned what was going on in 2022, because that was relevant. It was also a full moon in Scorpio, but at that time it was an eclipse. So Mars is in a closing phase conjunction to Neptune, again showing us the time is up. The time is up. Mars, as the ruler of the North Node, is conjuncting Neptune few days after this full moon. So things are becoming illuminated from what we've been experiencing. Yeah, you can say over the last 6 months, but this is really cycles inside of cycles, inside of cycles, inside of cycles, right? And it's the Pisces age. It's the totality of everything that came before, because everything is connected, right? So this is where it's not so easy to do linear interpretations of things anymore, because we're becoming more and more multidimensional and understanding that nothing is happening in separation. So Jupiter is in a new phase conjunction with Uranus, and this is actually, like I said, being sextile by Mars still. Mars is still sextile in Jupiter and Uranus, even though the exact sextile is happening like I said, today, right? 19th. Yes, the exact sextile is happening on the 19th. So 4 days before this full moon, but it's still in action. So this is making it even closer. Mars is coming even closer towards this conjunction. And Saturn is also sextile in Uranus. There's obviously a wider orb, but Saturn is also contributing. It's also sextile in Uranus and Jupiter. From Pisces to Taurus, we are ending cycles, so new cycles can begin, creating space for something new, for new energy. And also the moon, of course. The moon in Scorpio is now in a new phase conjunction to this south node in Libra. New phase. There is a new phase. Already new cycle began because of the new moon solar eclipse in Aries. So moon is in a new phase to south node, sun is in a new phase to north node, and Venus, as the ruler of the south node, is in a closing phase to sun. Because things are ending. Things are ending. Things of the past. Because Venus, being on 23 degrees of Aries, is on the path of self-discovery. So the way to understand this energy is that Venus, the more people, and this is actually I just listened to an amazing amazing MP3 from Lee Harris, which was called Rising of Divine Feminine. You can find it on his website. It's only like an hour long. And this is literally what they talk about. The channel talks about this. I mean, the channel is not new. It's from a few years ago, but it's so relevant because this is literally this energy. This moon, Scorpio, full moon in a new phase conjunction to south node, but the ruler of the south node, Venus, is closing to sun. In Air, sun is already in Taurus, ruled by Venus, and Venus is in Aries, ruled by Mars in Pisces, in a closing phase conjunction to Neptune and new phase to Saturn. Because they already had a conjunction, they already started a new cycle after the eclipse. It happened on eclipse was on the 8th, conjunction was on the 10th. So how the channel explains it is that once women start, and this is not just females, this is the divine feminine energy, the Venus, the Venetian energy, the divine feminine, the energy that creates, the energy of receptivity, the energy where things are birthed, right? So they were saying that once women, or this divine feminine, starts taking its power back, but in many cases is in a female form. But of course, men, or whoever, however you identify yourself, I don't want to get lost on these labels, because eventually labels will become completely irrelevant, right? But at the moment we still have labels. But either way, this feminine energy, this divine feminine energy, once it will start breaking free from this suppression, which already has been happening, then there is no going back. You cannot put it back in a box. That's it. And it's also with this story, Jupiter Uranus conjunction in Taurus, ruled by Venus. This story is ending, the story of suppression, because the feminine, the divine feminine, is the energy that can create a child. Of course, it needs the counterpart, the masculine energy, and this is why both are needed. There is no one better than the other, but we were living, apart from the fact that we were being disconnected from ourselves, we were living under the illusion that the male energy is dominant, or that the masculine is more important. But neither is more important than the other. They both need each other. To create a child, you need both, right? Even though, yes, we're living in a time and age where this can be, challenged, but, if we think about it from the natural perspective, right? So what am I saying here? With this Venus being in a closing phase to Sun in Aries, and Sun is already in Taurus, ruled by Venus, and Venus is opposing also, this moon. She's conjuncting Sun, she's opposing the full moon in Scorpio, and like I said, the moon is in a new phase conjunction to South Node, ruled by Venus. This is what it means. Venus is now on a path of self-discovery. She already was reborn. She already was reborn in Aries. She's starting a new cycle. She's gonna conjunct the South Node one more time. That's it. That's it. And that's it. And then she won't be the ruler anymore as of next, February, because the nodes are going to shift next January. So the Venus, this Venusian energy, this divine feminine energy, whether it's within men or women, that doesn't matter. We don't care about the labels. The feminine energy, the ones that's rising, the energy of protection and receptivity and creation of life and protecting it and nurture and all that kind of things, this energy is rising. It's rising because that's why the world is in a state that it is. That this energy was suppressed, and it was all about this overly masculine energy, these achievements and power and all this doing and all that kind of things. And people are burned out because there has to be a balance. There has to be both. There has to be both, right? So this Venus being in Aries, she's already on a path of self-discovery, and she's closing to the Sun. Sun is in Taurus. So it's saying that it's time to let this go, because now this energy that's here and it's birthing and it's coming through, you cannot put it back in a box. It's not gonna go back in a box. It's not gonna happen. So we're gonna go forward with this, because this is what needs to happen to balance that opposition to Uranus that happened between the during the time of the new moon in Scorpio, opposition to Uranus, and like I said, in 2022 during this lunar eclipse in Scorpio, it was squared by Saturn in Aquarius, ruled by Uranus. Uranus was already in the sign of Taurus. So we can see how everything is connected here. It doesn't even matter which chart you look at. It's all the same thing. It's saying the story of the past suppression of humanity that made us disconnected from ourselves and each other, because we were being told that, we need someone external of us to give us, do things for us, nurture us, whatever. But also we were being conditioned to believe that one way is better than the other. And now we can see the imbalance of that. We can see the manifestation of that, we just did what we were being told, that this energy is not as important. We focus on the other, the power, overachievement, ambition, and all the rest of it. And I know that even from, not my experience in this lifetime, but I know I had these experiences before. When a woman chooses to be a mother and chooses to stay at home and raise the child, she's looking especially these days, she's being looked down at. That all you do is a mother? Like, what is your job? What do you do? And this is what I mean. This is exactly where we are at, right? And I'm not saying it's the same for everyone and it's the same in every culture, but predominantly, if somebody says, and even a woman that would say, I'm a stay-at-home mom, they would feel kind of guilty about it, or ashamed that, am I contributing enough, or something like that. And this is the imbalance, because both are needed. if there is no someone to take care, of that child, of that house, of that everything, then, the man won't be exactly like thriving either, So it's like, again, this is not a battle of sexes, and there is no right and wrong. And like I said, it doesn't matter how you identify yourself and what is the label. None of this is, all of this is inconsequential. What matters is that there is too much of an imbalance in the world, which is manifesting in all sorts of ways, also our relationship dynamics. That's why there is so much pain, so much hurt, because of all these stories we were being told about who we are, what relationships should look like, what we should achieve in this life, how much we should earn, what we should have, what we should value, what we should look like. This is all Venus, right? Jupiter, Uranus are in Taurus, ruled by Venus. Venus is just about to move into her own sign of rulership. So this is what I mean. So this opposition, it's showing us through all these different avenues and aspects of our life, and all these different things that are happening in our individual stage, in our own life, and collectively showing us exactly all the things that are not working anymore, which is a lot of it. It's not all of it. Let's not be doom and gloom. There are things that are still valuable and, and worth keeping and, taking with us into the next cycle. But a lot of these stories created so much damage and distortion and pain, because even if you think about it, the way that women, and again, I don't want to go into the sexes and stuff, but let's just keep it simple and stay with the women. But we all been everything, and we all have both energies within us. But just for the simplicity of the example, let's just say women, female, okay? So throughout the history, and it's still happening in some it's so mind-boggling that we live in the 21st century and this is still happening. Thousands and thousands years later, this is still happening in some parts of the world where woman means nothing, when she is just a property, which makes no sense, because if it wasn't for a woman, how would the men be born? But this is not to say like, oh, these men are so bad or something. No, because everybody is wounded, because if a child is being born to a woman who is being suppressed and, humiliated and worse, whatever, how do we expect the child to become a healthy adult, or to create a healthy relationship towards women alive and whatever, because again, nature, nurture, whatever. We can go into many, many rabbit holes and complexities of human nature, human psychology, and, environmental conditioning and the rest of it. But when I'm getting with all of this, because of the aspects that happening, and Pluto squaring the nodes, Pluto being in Aquarius, again Uranus, Jupiter-Uranus conjunction just happened 3 days before. So a new story is beginning, and it's the story that is telling us we need to reconnect. We need to reconnect, but it all starts from within. It all starts from Taurus, because the South Node got us exactly where we are at. The South Node in Libra got us exactly into this situation, which is not about, oh my God, all doom and gloom and, feeling sorry for ourselves and victimized by this someone other. No, this was part of the experience. It was needed and necessary, because the human collective consciousness was not what it is now. Me and Marissa from Growing the Flow, we were talking about this during our last Stars and the Cards, which was about this energy. I highly recommend to check it, because again, the depth of that conversation could have gone in million different more directions, but we had to try to keep it into certain time limit, right? But anyway, so this is what I mean. Now Pluto is squaring the nodes, the moon. Pluto was squaring the nodes last year, pointing to the South Node in Libra. It's saying, no, you can no longer look for the answers outside of you. You can no longer look up to these people that tell you all these stories, because they don't know any better either, because they were being told the same stories. It's this thing that being passed on and passed on and passed on. And now it's saying, okay, well, we tried that. The source already had a lot of experience, totality of experience, right? Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. Totality of experience, what it is like to experience life through externalization of the power. Yes, it was valid, it was needed at the time. Us as a soul wanted to have that experience. That's what I mean. From the soul perspective, we don't look at it from through the human eyes and human engagement and say, this is terrible, why would I choose that? This makes no sense. Why would I want to have this experience? The soul goes, oh yeah, it's an experience. Let's go for it. Every experience is an experience. It allows us to grow and evolve and, expand, right? But this is now maxed out. It's maxed out. We had all these Jupiter-Neptune conjunctions in 2022, like there was this new phase, right? And then we had this, like I said, Mars already conjuncted Neptune, in 2022, and it was like, what I said, Mars was in a new phase conjunction to, was it to that eclipse? Let me just check myself, because now I'm going a little bit bonkers. Where was Mars? 2022, 16th of May, no, Mars was in Pisces, of course it was in Pisces, so Mars was trining it, okay, Mars was trining it, Mars was trining that eclipse, yes, Mars was, at the time of the eclipse 2022, Mars was in a closing phase to Neptune, but trining the moon, trining the eclipse, right? Jupiter was in a new phase to Neptune, but already in Aries, and then, like I said, the last one that we're talking about, November 2023, 6 months ago, well, almost 7. Mars was, where is Mars? Oh, this is the one when Mars was in the new phase conjunction to this Scorpio. So we can see how cycles were ending. Now new cycles are beginning. There was all these reset points alongside the way, because in 2022, Saturn was squaring the nodes as a ruler of Pluto, ruled by Uranus, right? Being in Aquarius. Excuse me. And the south node was in Scorpio, ruled by Pluto. Everything is connected. Then last one, the new moon in Scorpio, it was opposed by Uranus. Uranus is the ruler of, currently ruler of Pluto. Uranus was the ruler of Saturn in 2022 when it was squaring the nodes, pointing to the south node. And Mars was in a closing phase to Neptune, giving in the trine, saying, don't worry, yes, we're closing this cycle. This cycle of disempowerment is not cutting it anymore. It's no longer soul's desire. It's no longer source desire. That's it. We had enough, we had enough of suffering, right? And now we have in Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto in Aquarius squaring this moon, where am I? Yeah, Pluto in Aquarius is squaring this moon. Still connected to Uranus, and Uranus just had a conjunction with Jupiter, and Jupiter is in a new phase. And at the time of the next new moon in Scorpio, the one that will close this loop that started in 2023, Jupiter will be in Gemini. It will be actually retrograde at the time, but Jupiter will be already in Gemini, and Uranus will be opposing Mercury in Scorpio. I mean, come on. And Mercury is on 28 degrees. 28 degrees. I already mentioned that Pluto was 28 degrees in 2022, 2023. It's always 28 degrees. I mean, it will be 29 degrees, during the new moon in Scorpio in November 2024, because, like I say, it's going to make an exact opposition to Mars on 29 degrees of Cancer. We're letting go of these identities. We're letting go of these stories because it's time. Because it's time, and this is like going in a circles about the same thing. So anyway, guys, like I said, we can just keep going in circles about the same thing. But the point is that this eclipse is in eclipse. Why do I keep saying eclipse? Full moon in Scorpio is making is in a T-square with Pluto, lured by Uranus, that is in a new phase with Jupiter. Jupiter is in the new phase to Uranus, starting a new story about Taurus, while Venus is in a closing phase conjunction to Sun. Venus as the ruler of the Sun, but Venus still in Aries, ruled by Mars in Pisces, closing to Neptune in Pisces. These cycles are ending because this divine feminine energy that was suppressed, which is all about Taurus and Libra. It's about how you connect to yourself and how you connect to the other. If we are not connected to ourselves, how we can connect to other in a healthy way? We can't, because we will be seeking for that which we need to learn. This is what I even keep saying to my clients. There are only 2 types of people you will attract throughout your life. They are the people you have the contract with to learn something, the teachers, or the people that, there is a karma and stuff. Either way, these are usually the more challenging relationships. Usually our parents and immediate family, usually our lovers, whoever is the closest person to us, whatever it is, it could be other people too, but usually our, partners and our parents. Those are usually the biggest challenge in our life, the relationship through which we grow the most. And then the other type of people that we meet is the people that then will mirror to us how much we've learned, how much we've moved on, the people that are showing us the new direction, The people from the past that are showing us who we were and what we need to heal from the past, and the people from the future that showing us the potential. Yes, this is what you can become. This is what you can learn to evolve and grow and all the rest of it. So with this energy of the divine feminine that is on the rise, that is wanting to be present, to heal both the disconnection between the divine feminine and masculine, whether it's within a person or whether it's within a person and the other, right? Whatever the other is. I already said, Libra is not just a human. It's not just our relationship to another person. It's our relationship to everything. Everything that is outside of us. Libra, because Libra is the bridge. Is the bridge of the connection. Through Mercury we identify, Mercury, and then Aquarius, we have the Earth trine. We identify, who do I want to connect with? Who are my people? Who do I feel authentic with? And, people that are on the same wavelength. And there is no right and wrong. It's just like, with some people we get on, with some we don't. That's fine, We all came here to learn, and it doesn't mean that we all, have to get on with everybody in the same way. But it's about, I see you. Doesn't mean I'm going to agree with everything you say, but you have the right to say and do and believe whatever you want, So anyway, with these energies that are present in this chart, and then we can, of course, take it to what's happening in the world and all that. And like I said yesterday during the, the video that we made with Marissa and the cards that were coming out, there is a lot of, pain coming up to the surface. Is this Chiron, this new phase between Venus and Chiron. We need to look at it. We cannot hide from it anymore. We cannot procrastinate. We cannot sweep it under the carpet. This moon is squared by Pluto. I mean, come on. The moon is squared by Pluto. There is no more hiding. There is no more hiding. We need to resolve this. Because the energy is already moving forward. The energy is pulling us with itself, and we either go kicking or screaming, or we just go with it, right? Either way, it's going ahead. It's already going ahead. I mean, Mars is just about to move into Aries at the end of the month, and this is when the energy will really shift. Like I was saying, during this Aries season, for the majority of Aries season, Mars was in Pisces. So it was kind of all like nebulous, and behind the veil, it was a lot of emotional stuff, and a lot of opportunities for reconnection to ourselves, and a lot of patterns from the past coming to the surface, and all these kind of things, right? Well, that's going to shift now, because Mars is about to move into Aries and Venus is going to move into Taurus. These are the two signs of their rulerships. And this is a Taurus season. What is Taurus season? Is when the idea becomes manifest, because it's the earth. It gives it a form. So we had all these eclipses, the Libra one that was showing us what is, out of balance with regards to past, and illuminated everything that is out of balance in our world, in ourselves, in our life. And then the Aries New Moon brought the power of creation, the spiritual power of creation, and everything got reset. There was the new cycle that began on a 4-4 when Sun conjuncted the North Node, and then 4-8, the eclipse. And now we're going ahead. There is already a new phase conjunction between Moon and the South Node, and Sun and a North Node, right? So this is why all these things are happening, and they will continue to happen. They will not stop, because we're going ahead. Pluto is squaring the moon. Pluto, like I said, Sun and Pluto are having the square on Sunday, just before, but this is putting Pluto behind the Sun, even though it is the first quarter square, which normally would be crisis in action, so we need to do something. But Pluto is being put behind the Sun, which is a crisis in consciousness. What do we need to release? Because we know that next time we have a Scorpio moon, Pluto will be in exact opposition with Mars on 29 degrees of Cancer, and Pluto will be on 29 degrees of Capricorn. We need to release the old structure and definition of who we thought we were, because of the stories we were being told, because the story is starting anew. And by November, Jupiter is already moving into Gemini next month, right after the full moon in Sagittarius. It will have a conjunction with Venus right before, on I think 28 or 29 degrees, on the last degrees of Taurus. So that's it. We can see all the cycles are ending. That's it. All the cycles are ending. We're going ahead, ready or not. A new story is being birthed. And this story requires for everything to be in balance. The divine feminine, the divine masculine, our relationship with ourselves, which then will be mirrored to us in a more harmony and balanced way, harmonious and balanced way through the relationships in our external life. So at the moment, all we can see is crisis. I'm not saying all there is crisis, and but we can see a lot of it. We can see a lot of it, and even in our personal life, personal world, we can see everything that is taking us out of balance. It's becoming manifest to show us. So these things will just continue, and they will potentially, intensify, because it's Scorpio. It's intense, because we need to like this is what I keep saying. Like, how bad does it have to get for people to understand what's going on, and that the real power that is not out there. It's not out. It's always been here. It's all these Taurus. It's all these Taurus. The truth, the truth, the wisdom, the self-reliance, self-sufficiency, all the tools is already within you. It's already within you. We were all born with the seed, and the seed is within you. It's not outside of you. And yes, and this is all about healing. It's all about healing. It's all this Neptune. It's time to heal. Mars is conjuncting Neptune again. It's time to heal. Right? The energy has shifted since 2022, when they last had a conjunction, and Mars was trining the eclipse. Not Mars was trying the eclipse, it was someone else. No, actually it was, yes, I'm right the first time. Mars was trining the eclipse in Scorpio in 2022. So Mars said, don't worry, 2 more years and things are going to start changing very rapidly, because Pluto is already in Aquarius, right? So yeah, so this is where we're at. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it, because there is no other way. There is no other way. This is the only way, because any other way is maxed out. It's maxed out. So it's time. It's time to reconnect to ourselves, reconnect to one another, and bring the balance back into our life, into our world, because everything is, yin and yang. Everything is yin and yang. It tries to come back to the point of balance and harmony and equilibrium. This is what I keep saying about the universe. The universe always will try to come back to the point of balance and equilibrium and harmony. And now with the Scorpio full moon, we are being shown exactly where is the imbalance of power, where the power is being distributed in a way that is very imbalanced, that is really showing us why we feel disempowered. Because if we externalize all our power to the external environment, especially when it comes to resources, Taurus, then that someone, holds the carrot, right? And then we don't feel strong within to be able to make a difference. So we need to reconnect. So anyway, guys, I think I'm gonna leave it at that, because I'm just going in circles here. But this is a big moon, because Pluto squaring the moon, squaring the sun and the moon, and with everything else that's going on there, this is creating a lot of pressure for change. And the change always happens when there are things happening that take us out of our comfort zone, Taurus, right? They need to take us out of our comfort zone, because we need to stretch our muscles and realize how powerful we really are. And we wouldn't have known if we weren't being challenged, right? So Pluto is really challenging us now. Pluto was challenging the nodes last year, saying like, no, the more you keep externalizing your power, the more disempowered you will feel. And now Pluto is squaring the moon, illuminating, and all this energy of the Scorpio and Mars just about to move into Aries and stuff. It's like, that's it. It's time to step into your power. And we're going to step into our power to face that which makes us feel disempowered, because Venus, as the ruler of the South Node, is already in a new phase conjunction with North Node and with Chiron. Chiron as the wounded healer. We need to use our wounds to help us feel stronger, not broken, not faulty, or whatever, imperfect. So anyway, so that's it. So let's pull a card, and we're gonna close with that. I'm gonna pull one card from Queen of the Moon, and and see what comes out here. I know what came out for me and Marisa yesterday, but we're gonna pull one more and just one major arcana, and then we're going to pull more cards during the practical application of astrology, which I'm going to record over the weekend. So just one card for this Scorpio full moon from Queen of the Moon, and one card from major arcana with regards to the overarching energies of next week, because we of course will have the Mars conjunct Neptune. So this is the energy of the moon. Okay, so one card for the Scorpio full moon. I do excuse, oh, one fell out. I do excuse if there is a noise being heard. Surrender, 26, number 8. Surrender to the higher power, because there are things we don't know. We have to trust things we don't see. Look, the moon is also, what is it, waning crescent. Waning crescent is just before the new moon. New moon in Scorpio. Surrender, because we will know more during the new moon in Scorpio, on the other side of it, in 6 months, in November 1st. And look at all this orange, the power of creativity. The power of creativity is already within you, and look, he's looking up to this like formation, like a cloud, like a spirit. He's looking up to spirit, but the eyes are closed. It's about surrendering. And it is between the two, like kind of like two formations. Imagine like we are between the two rocks, right? There are like, okay, this is kind of like a foggy, but there is like two rocks, right? Imagine it's like a two rocks. So we are between the two rocks, so there's nowhere to escape, there's nowhere to hide. Pluto is squaring the moon, there's nowhere to hide. So the only way we can do is to surrender to the guidance, to the higher power, the power of your creativity, and to look at the higher picture, look up, look at the potential. And yeah, it's just before the new moon. So the Scorpio new moon in November, we'll have much more answers, because by then this cycle will be ending and a new cycle beginning. But this, which is becoming illuminating to us now, we will understand the totality of that in November, and that's right after the eclipses, right? We will have the first lunar eclipse in Pisces and the next solar eclipse in Libra, which is again in a new phase conjunction on the south node. So we need to surrender. And it's 28, year number 8. This is the year of stepping into our authority and co-creating with the higher power. Surrendering doesn't mean giving up. Let go of what you no longer need. Stop being so stubborn about holding on to aspects and behaviors that don't align with who you are now. Stop struggling. And then affirmation is, I let go, I surrender my struggle, I allow the universe to work through me. Well, doesn't it sound just like the Mars in Pisces, in a closing phase to Neptune, a new phase to Saturn in Pisces? Okay, it took me a long time to realize that surrendering was a positive thing. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't mean the giving up kind of surrender. I mean the, okay, it's time for me to hand this over type of surrender. For those of us who are highly independent and used to doing things quite ably on our own, that's the dominance of the divine masculine, where we were being told you have to do it all by yourself, right? Admitting we need assistance, or that we might indeed have to let something go for our betterment, can be challenging. Letting go and surrendering admits or exposes a vulnerability or two. To surrender, we might need to show our underbelly. We might need to admit we got it wrong, made a mistake, grab a bad habit, surrendered ourselves with people that are not good for us. It can make us feel raw in our realization. Remember, this moon phase is dark and beautiful. That's just the one before the new moon. It casts a protective shadow that allows us to be as wide open as we need to be to do our work. We reveal safety to only the divine and ourselves, and then the light returns. And the companion stone is orange calcite. Orange, that's the color of Metatron. It's also the color of sacral chakra. Sacral is the divine feminine. It's water, emotions, creativity. So yeah, that's what I mean. It's time to release that which no longer serves us and reconnect with the divine feminine force, the force of creativity. Okay, one major arcana, just for additional guidance with regards to the upcoming week, and that's it. One major arcana for the week of the full moon in Scorpio and Mars conjunct in Neptune. Okay. Strength. Again, we have strength. That came up last time. No, last time was star. Last time was star. Oh, and at the bottom is justice. Number 11, master number frequency, and the strength, number 8, justice. Balancing of the scales. Again, the divine feminine and masculine. And look at all the thread. Base chakra. We're going to birth from the beginning, from the root. Right? We need to get to the root of the things and cut the cords like the Archangel Michael knife. We know that last week we got that card of the was it contracts reverse, right? It's time to cut the cords and balance, justice, Libra season, yeah? Eclipse is in Libra. But look at that, the infinity symbol, the strength. Again, we already had this card. You know, we need to co-create with our higher self. There is always a guidance available. Look at all that yellow, the solar plexus, the I am. We can walk over any mountains. We have the human body to experience the landscape of the life, but we need to allow the spirit in to guide us, the purity, the higher perspective, the infinity that's available to us as divine being. We are not just this ego and this avatar and this, like I keep saying, that's not all we are, but that's what we were being reduced to, believing that this is who we are. And it created imbalance. It created an imbalance in the universe, which now needs to be balanced. The divine justice. This is what's taking place. Everything that's taking place, even though it doesn't make sense, like I keep saying, and it is going to, there's gonna be many challenging situations because we cannot have one without the other. You know, there is a completely different reality that's being birthed, and it comes with, like I've been experiencing here in my proximity, a lot of noise, a lot of distraction, a lot of unpredictability. But we have the strength within, and there is always help available. And it's the number 8. We are in the year number 8. The infinity symbol is also number 8. This is the year where we can step into our power. So like last week we had the star, which is the age of Aquarius. So this year we are flexing our muscles and making a choice. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna leave it. I hope that this resonated. Like I said, my stars and cards video was already released, so you can find it and check it out on my YouTube channel, and also my collaboration with Adrian with the charts analysis. And Adrian's perspective will be coming out probably next week. We will be recording it on Sunday, right? Okay. So I will see you for the practical application of astrology, probably on Saturday, and I wish you all a wonderful weekend, and I'll speak to you again soon. Much love. Bye.